Samparetasya Bhargava Yudhistira Karayitva Muhurtam Dukhito Bhavat Tasya Nirharanadini Samparetasya Bhargava Yudhistira Karayitva Muhurtam Dukhito Bhavat. Tasya, his, Nirharanadini, funeral ceremony. Samparetasya, of the dead body. Bhargava, O descendant of Bhrigu. Yudhistiraha, Maharaja Yudhistira. Karayitva, having performed it. Muhurtam, for a moment. Dukhitaha, sorry. Abhavat, became. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. O descendant of Bhrigu, Shaunaka, after performing funeral rituals for the dead body of Bhishma Deva, Maharaja Yudhistira was momentarily overtaken with grief. Translation with repetition. O descendant of Bhrigu, Shaunaka, after performing funeral rituals for the dead body of Bhishma Deva, Maharaja Yudhistira was momentarily overtaken with grief. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Bhishma Deva was not only a great family head of Maharaj Yudhishthira, but also he was a great philosopher and friend of him, his brothers and his mother. Since Maharaja Pandu, the father of the 5 brothers headed by Maharaja Yudhishthira, died, Bhishma Deva was the most affectionate grandfather of the Pandavas and caretaker of the widowed daughter-in-law Kunti Devi. Although Maharaja Dhritarashtra, the elder uncle of Maharaja Yudhishthira, was there to look after them, his affection was more on the side of his 100 sons, headed by Duryodhana. Ultimately, a colossal clique was fabricated to deprive the 5 fatherless brothers of the rightful claim of the kingdom of Hastinapura. There was great intrigue common in imperial palaces, and the 5 brothers were exiled into the wilderness. But Bhishma Deva was always a sincerely sympathetic well-wisher, grandfather, friend, and philosopher to Maharaja Yudhishthira, even up to the last moment of his life. He died very happily by seeing Maharaj Yudhishthira to the throne. Otherwise, he would have long quitted his material body, instead of suffering agony over the undue sufferings of the Pandavas. He was simply waiting for the opportune moment, because he was sure and certain that the sons of Pandu would come out victorious in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. As his lordship, Sri Krishna was the protector. As a devotee of the Lord, he knew that the Lord's devotee cannot be vanquished at any rate. Maharaj Yudhishthira was quite aware of all these good wishes of Bhishma Deva, and therefore he must have been feeling the great separation. He was sorry for the separation of a great soul, and not for the material body which Bhishma Deva relinquished. The funeral ceremony was a necessary duty, although Bhishma Deva was a liberated soul. Since Bhishma Deva was without issue, the eldest grandson, namely Maharaj Yudhishthira, was the rightful person to perform this ceremony. It was a great boon to Bhishma Deva that an equally great son of the family undertook the last rites of a great man. Thus ends the Transcendental Bhaktivedanta purport. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine. Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyata Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. So this is from 9th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, which is describing Bhishma Deva's passing away in the presence of Lord Krishna. So this is towards the end of this chapter. So far we have seen that Bhishma Deva has already quit his body actually. And how did he quit his body is very significant to note. And therefore this title of this chapter is also Bhishma Deva's passing away in the presence of Lord Krishna. So everyone who is born has to die. But not everyone dies the same way. So here is something very unique about the way Bhishma Deva left his body. And what is that significance? He was completely absorbed in the thought of the Lord. He was actually seeing the Lord as he is quitting his body. So this is a great fortune. It is not easy. As it is said in the Bhagavad Gita that Dehino asmin yatha dehe kaumaram yauvanam jara tatha dehantra praptir dhiras tatra namohyati. So one, just like we in this body, are transmigrating from one to another body every point of time. As a child is growing into a young man and then adult and getting old. So although the living entity who is present within the body is the same, but the body is constantly changing. Similarly, at the point of death, the body is changing, but the soul remains as it is. It takes another form, another body, either spiritual or material. But in case of great devotees like Bhishma Deva, they go back to the spiritual world. And in this verse, not only the glory of Bhishma Deva is explained furthermore, but also the qualities of Maharaja Yudhistira is also explained. So in this verse, it is very important to note that this verse is actually spoken by Suta Goswami to Shaunaka Rishi. And Shaunaka Rishi is being addressed here as Bhargava, or descendant of Bhrigu. So Bhrigu is son of Brahma. Brahma, the first living entity, has many, many sons so as to expand the population all over the universe. And amongst them, one of his sons, most powerful sons, is Bhrigu. And he also happens to be one of the greatest sages. And the descendants of Bhrigu are called Bhargavas. So one among them is Shaunaka Rishi. So here it is being said that Nirharanadini, funeral ceremony of Samparetasya, so of the dead body of Bhishma Deva, Maharaja Yudhistira performed the funeral rites, rituals. So it is very important, as Prabhupada also mentions in the purport, that although Bhishma Deva was a liberated soul, it is important, or it is necessary duty to perform a funeral ceremony. So actually the Vedic culture and the entire system is so well designed that in every aspect of life, a certain ritual or a activity is performed so as to connect one with the Lord. And therefore, a funeral ceremony across different religions, if one goes to any other religion or any other kind of human population, there is certain ritual that is performed at the time of death. That is because one recognizes that there is something after this life. If there is nothing after this life, there is no need to pay attention. But if there is something after this life, one has to pay attention as where is he going, how will he go, what will happen to him next. And therefore, if someone is concerned about that, one has to definitely perform various funeral rituals. Prabhupada mentions in another place that, in fact, this is mentioned by Narada Muni to Yudhistira Maharaj, as how a dead body can go to different places. So he gives the example that in some communities, the dead body is left for the vultures to eat, and then it becomes a stool of the vulture. In some other case, the dead body is just left over like that, and therefore the insects eat away. In some other cases, it is burnt so that it becomes into ashes. So in this way, the dead body can take different forms. And people are usually attached to this dead body, and they think that this dead body is all in all. But according to the Vedic system, there are certain rituals that are performed as how the dead body has to be cremated and what is to be done, what are the different rituals. So here we can see Maharaja Yudhishthira being duty bound. He is performing the final rituals for Bhishma Deva's dead body. And most important thing that is being mentioned here is what was the state of Maharaja Yudhishthira when all these things were happening. So it is being mentioned here, Muhurtam Dukhito Bhavat. So he was overtaken with grief. So passing away of someone near and dear is very difficult to handle. So usually people become very morose, very sad when someone passes away. And how long do they carry grief? Not for short time, but for long, long time. But here, the grief that has overtaken Yudhishthira Maharaj was lasting only for a moment. Muhurtam dukhito bhavat. Only for a very, very short duration. Just for a moment, he was overcome with this grief. Now, this is very important. We should note that there are spiritual qualities and material qualities. Just like there is love in the material world, and there is a spiritual idea of what is love. Similarly, there is an idea of anger in the material sense, and there is also a spiritual kind of an anger. Similarly, there is grief, which is materially driven, and there is something grief which is spiritually also one can undergo grief. But the nature of both of these are different. One may think it is same, but no, there is a huge difference between both of them. And so we will see why is that Maharaja Yudhishthira was only overtaken for a moment with the grief, but not for prolonged duration. But before we go there, now we must understand, Prabhupada in the purport is explaining why, what is the reason, even for that momentary grief, or what is the relationship between Maharaj Yudhishthira and Bhishma Deva. So Prabhupada is explaining the purport as what is the relationship of Bhishma Deva to Maharaj Yudhishthira. So Prabhupada is saying that Bhishma Deva was not only the elderly member or head of Maharaj Yudhishthira's family, but he was also a great philosopher and a friend to Maharaj Yudhishthira, to his brothers, and to his mother Kunti Devi. So the relationship between Bhishma Deva and Maharaj Yudhishthira was not something which was a weak relationship. It was a strong relationship. And Prabhupada is saying that he was very, very affectionate. He was a great affectionate grandfather. And he was a caretaker of his daughter-in-law, Kunti Maharani, especially after her husband Pandu died. So Prabhupada is again emphasizing in further lines, saying that Bhishma Deva was always a sincerely sympathetic well-wisher, grandfather, friend, and philosopher to Maharaj Yudhishthira, even up to the last moment of his life. So this is someone is very, very affectionate towards you. And when they pass away, how difficult it is. Very difficult to process that. And we can see in sometimes it takes months, years, and sometimes even lifetimes. Especially as the relationship is more and more stronger, it is more and more difficult to process. Just like when we see a husband sees a wife passing away, or a wife sees the husband is passing away, then one sees, oh, all of my life I lived with them. Now what is the meaning of life? There is no point in living life. Similarly, mother, son, daughter, the parental affection, when they see that one of the child or the parents are no more present, the people become very, very anguished, lamenting. So this is the nature of this world. We become too attached to the people with whom we form a relationship. And any kind of separation, especially in the form of death, is very, very painful. Now, how? Because we see a material attachment here. The factor that is causing this pain is material attachment. Because as we saw in the previous class, there are thousands of people who are dying every second, but we are not at all worried about anything. Every second, thousands are dying. But because I do not have a material attachment with them, I am not at all concerned. There are thousands who are dying in a war, in famine, by diseases, but I am not bothered by any of them. But if it is a close relationship, is a close relative, close family member, the pain is immense. So we can see here the relationship between Maharaj Yudhistira and Bhishmadeva is not an ordinary one, but a deeply affectionate one. And we also see Prabhupada is also contrasting that with how Maharaj Dhritarashtra, although he is the elder brother of Pandu, and therefore the Pandavas, they all belong to the same family, but Maharaj Dhritarashtra, although he was supposed to take care of them, the Pandavas, he was not as affectionate as Bhishmadeva. So you can see how in all these circumstances that although the duty, the responsibility was of Dhritarashtra to take care of them, he was not very affectionate, but in this circumstances Bhishmadeva was affectionate. And therefore you can see the affection of Maharaj Yudhishthira towards Bhishmadeva also is very, very high. If someone is standing with you in tough times, you will develop even more affection. And you can see here nature of Dhritarashtra, that although it was his responsibility to take care of sons of Pandu, his younger brother, but he was too attached to his own sons. Mamakaha Pandavaschaiva. As we can see, this is the nature of someone who is low in consciousness or narrow focused. Me and my family. Everyone else are of inferior quality. My focus is only to pay attention to what happens to me and my family members, or to my community members, or to my religion, to people who belong to my religion, or people who belong to my nation. But for everyone else, I do not wish good. So this is the nature of Dhritarashtra, that he was only focusing on the well-being of his sons and not others. Not only that, here Prabhupada is using some very wonderful words. He's saying, ultimately a colossal clique was fabricated to deprive the 5 fatherless brothers of the rightful kingdom. So not only that he was showing affection, Dhritarashtra, towards his sons, but they all came together to make a secret plot as how to prevent the Pandavas from claiming their right to the kingdom. So you can see that there is a nature, there is a quality of Bhishmadeva of being a sympathetic well-wisher, and we can see a contrasting nature of Dhritarashtra of how he want to usurp the kingdom for his own sons. So this is the nature of someone who is not who is not a devotee of the Lord. It's not possible for one to have good qualities. And as soon as one becomes a devotee of the Lord, one becomes a well-wisher. So this is very important to note. Lokahitam. So devotees of the Lord are concerned with the well-being of everyone. whereas others are drawn by their own limited conceptions of whom they want to do good, and for others they do not wish any good, but rather they would like to do harm. So there was great intrigue common in claim of the kingdom of Hastinapura. Common in imperial palaces, and the 5 brothers were exiled into the wilderness. So you can see how much difficulties Dhritarashtra and his sons gave to Pandavas. So much of trouble they had to undergo. But despite all these situations, Bhishma Deva has been always constantly been sympathetic well-wisher. So this is the nature of the relationship between Bhishma Deva and Maharaja Yudhistira. And you can see here that actually Prabhupada is mentioning even further one more quality of Bhishma Deva, which is so unique in his relationship to Maharaja Yudhishthira, that Bhishma Deva has this unique quality of Ichha Mrityu. He can die whenever he wants. He can just choose, oh, these my grandchildren, they are going through so much trouble, let me die. I don't want to see them suffering. He could have died long back. Or when he was defeated, when he was attacked by Lord Krishna himself in the battlefield, he could have given up his life. But he is actually waiting and undergoing all these sufferings for a specific reason. And what is that reason? He was waiting, simply waiting for the opportune moment, because he was sure and certain that the sons of Pandu would come out victorious in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, as his lordship, Lord Shri Krishna, was their protector. So Bhishma Deva knew very well that as the Lord is present on the side of the Pandavas, the victory of the Pandavas is for certain. And I want to see Maharaja Yudhishthira to be crowned as the king. Just to see this. This is because of his affection. Just like we can see when grandparents, they are about to pass away, they call for the children or grandchildren, they want to see them, how are they doing? I want to see them before dying. So you can see here, there's a deep affection of Bhishma Deva towards Pandavas. And Maharaja Yudhishthira is also feeling that. And Prabhupada writes here that Maharaja Yudhishthira was quite aware of all these good wishes of Bhishma Deva, and therefore he must have been feeling the great separation. So Prabhupada is very clearly explaining why he would have felt some separation. Such loving, he's going through so much pain just to see Maharaja Yudhishthira and Pandavas to become victorious and to be crowned to their rightful kingdom. So in that deep affection that Bhishma Deva is showing, Maharaja Yudhishthira is becoming aware, and now he is no more there, and therefore there is pain of separation. But then Prabhupada also further explains that there is a uniqueness in the separation that is felt by Maharaja Yudhishthira and a common man. And the difference here is, he was sorry for the separation of a great soul and not for the material body which Bhishma Deva relinquished. So the difference is, he is worried, such a great soul, a great devotee of the Lord is no more present, not for the material body of Bhishma Deva. So this is the difference. The difference is, most of the people in this world are driven by the conception of materialism. They cannot see anything beyond matter. Therefore, the loss of matter is considered to be loss of everything. And therefore, in the very beginning of Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna immediately chastises Arjuna. Arjuna gives various reasons as why one should not fight in the battle. And he gives 5 different reasons. But in the very beginning, after hearing all these different reasons why one should not fight, Krishna immediately chastises Arjuna. And then he says, Shri Bhagavan Uvacha, Ashochan Anvasochastvam Pragna Vadam Shabhasase, Katasum Agadasum Sha Nanu Shochanti Panditaha. So Lord Krishna is saying here, Asochan, that which is unworthy of lamentation. Anvasochastvam, you are lamenting for that. So, in this world, people are lamenting for so many different things. But the question is it really worthy to lament for those things? And here Lord is saying, no, it is not. For what? Those who are wise lament neither for the living nor the dead. Gatasun agatasum sha nanu sochanti panditaha. The wise who are learned, they lament neither for the living nor for the dead. Why? Why they don't lament? Because they see the real person beyond the body. The body and the spirit are different. With the destruction of the body, the soul doesn't vanquish. Just like, do you see mothers crying when their child going to school? Do they cry every day? They are going away from the home, but you will not see mothers crying every day. Why? Because they know the child is going from my home, he is going to the school. He is present somewhere else. Therefore, I am not worrying. As soon as my conception exists that my child is going to school, one is not worried. But as soon as someone sees that he is going little far, sometimes they become a little worried. But after some time they will come to know, okay, he is there, therefore I am not more worried. So this conception, the lack of conception, the conception of physical presence of the body as all in all, makes one think that this is the only truth. So, just like a mother, if she cries every day as soon as the child goes to school, is like so foolishness. What is the point? Why should you lament? Similarly, someone who is in knowledge sees that the soul is eternal. Na hanyate hanyamane sharire. It is never vanquished. And therefore, there is no point to lament for the soul. So someone who is in knowledge sees this. Otherwise, we are just worrying for the bodily attachments. The whole material illusion is created because of this fundamental conception, I am this body and everything in relationship to my body is more important. And there is nothing else beyond that. So to break these two illusions is to break the foundations of material existence. Our material existence is deeply rooted because of these strong illusions of I am this body and everything related to me is most important. Especially in the lower species of life, the tendency of mine, you can see there is all fight for various things. Why? Because this is my place, this is your place. Similarly, in the human form also, when the consciousness is lower, there is fight over trivial things. This is my country, this is your country. Nothing belongs to us. But lack of knowledge overpowers. That's why Bhagavad Gita says knowledge means to understand the distinction between the soul and the body. Not when one has got PhDs, masters from this university, from that university, one is not considered knowledgeable. Knowledge means to understand this fundamental principle of spiritual life, that I am not this body, I am spirit soul. And the quality of spirit soul, the activities of spirit soul are completely different from the body. So unless that understanding does not come, one is said to be Saiva Gokhara. One is compared to asses. So it is very important that in human form of life, one must endeavor to come to this base realization that I am not this body, I am spirit soul, and I am a servant of the Supreme Lord. This is the base understanding one must develop. And how can one develop this? So, you can see that in this verse, Yasyatma Bhakti, Yasyatma Kunapetri Dhaduke. So, in this verse, there is a beautiful description about how people relate to their own lands as it belongs to me because I am born here. And people also go to pilgrimage places to take a dip in the river. They think simply by dipping in the river, all good will happen. No, Prabhupada explains that actually when one goes to pilgrimage places, one should actually look for saintly people. One should go and hear from the saintly people who can cut down these deep-rooted illusions within us. Without hearing from sadhu, shastra and guru, the illusions of our, which are deeply tied in our heart, the knots of illusion will not be cut off. And therefore, it is very important that we should go and hear from the saintly people, from the spiritual master, from the scriptures. And how should we hear? We should hear in submission. We should surrender. But in humility, we can ask questions. Inquiry is not denied, but it must be done in humility. Tad viddhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te gnanam gnaninas tattvadarshinaha. So unless we do not approach a bona fide spiritual master who has seen the truth, this knowledge will not be revealed. Unless we don't serve and surrender, our inquiries will not be fruitful. So it is a process that we need to follow in order to acquire this knowledge. It is not just theoretical knowledge. In fact, when Maharaj Prithu, he passes away, his wife Arshi, she also becomes lamenting. She also laments, but only for a moment. Kinchit. Only for some time, only for a brief moment, she feels sorry. But then she immediately realizes, oh, he is soul, he is not this body, why should I lament? So this knowledge can be acquired by anyone. Young boy, old boy, husband, wife, man, women, it is not barred. Dhruva Maharaj could understand when he was young the signs of Krishna consciousness. So this is obtainable provided we are determined. We are surrendering to a spiritual master. So without submission, this knowledge will not come. The spirit of submission is very important. And if the spirit of submission, if one hears from the saintly people, and we are very fortunate that Srila Prabhupada has given us so many books, so many lectures, and if we sincerely hear, and Prabhupada has also given us the opportunity to speak about Krishna. So when we meet, if we speak about Krishna, if we glorify Krishna, this understanding of, basic understanding of I'm spirit, I'm not this body, will become very easily understandable. If this simple understanding can free us from lamentation and hankering. Not only lamentation, but also hankering. So much of hankering. The whole struggle that we create for ourselves is because of so many hankerings. So many desires. One desire leads to another desire leads to another desire, and we complicate our lives so much. But if we simply recognize, I am spirit soul, I am servant of the Lord, and I am meant to serve the Lord. If this one desire that I am only meant to serve the Lord exists, one is completely peaceful. But any other desire that one possesses is a cause of, for one to be in a not peaceful condition. This is a simple formula, but it must be understood. It must be realized. And therefore, this process of practical devotional service is the way, simply by engaging our senses in one way or other in the service of the Lord, we will see our consciousness will transform. The tendency of I, mine, lording over will subside. Therefore, this process of devotional service is so powerful. And therefore, places like these temples established by Srila Prabhupada is so important. Because unless one does not do practical devotional service, these understandings are difficult to assimilate. They look theoretical, scholarly. No, they have to be realized. And therefore, in one way or the other, this temple provides opportunities for practical devotional service. Just like devotees are now starting with the gardening service for the Lordship Shri Radha Damodar, so much opportunity. Someone can just go and take out some stones and put it aside, take out some weeds. But if I think, oh, this is not my service, I'm not connected with this, I don't care for it, then one is missing an opportunity to serve. If you are eager to see the service, we will see service. But if you are not eager to see service, there will be so much service, but we will not see service. We will think, oh, I'm free, but there is nothing to do for me. No. If we are eager, the Lord is unlimited and His service is unlimited. It's our lack of willingness to see is the problem. The lack of willingness to assist someone in their service is the problem. Otherwise, there is never a dearth of service. So someone who sees through this lens of service will make quick progress. And they will not be afflicted by these material miseries of lamentation. They will not be drawn away by hankerings of this material nature. So it is very important to see the wonderful qualities of Bhishma Deva, the wonderful qualities of Maharaja Yudhistira, of how he is able to see this in a spiritual way. He's not seeing the body, he's seeing the soul. And therefore his separation is different from the separation that we feel when we see someone near and dear ones who passes away. So we have to learn these wonderful things from Bhagavatam as how we should see these different phases of life, different situations as a devotee of the Lord. And as we can see, Prabhupada is also mentioning that as a devotee of the Lord, Bhishma Deva knew that the Lord's devotee cannot be vanquished at any time. Actually, Lord protects His devotees all the time. And even here we can see how Lord made these arrangements wonderfully, that Maharaja Yudhistira is going to do the final rites of Bhishma Deva. It is Lord's arrangement. For a devotee, one doesn't have to worry. One has to only worry for the Lord's service. There is nothing else to worry about. Because if there is something missing, Lord will provide it. And what one has, He will preserve it. And therefore there is no real worry for a devotee. He has to have complete faith in the protection and in the maintenance of the Lord. That is a principle of surrender. And similarly, we can see in the case of Parikshit Maharaj, how Sukadeva Goswami was sent there by the mercy of the Lord. The Lord is sending Sukadeva Goswami to Parikshit Maharaj. He has only 7 days. Yet, when the Lord's hand is present, when the Lord's protection is present, everything manifests nicely. Even if it's in a moment of time, even if it's just 7 days of time, everything is nicely set. But if not, we may do all our hard work to prepare ourselves as how to die, who should do what, but it may not happen. So it is important to see that the Lord's protection is important. And as we see, the Lord's protection in this age comes through chanting of the holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. As Prabhupada says, that if we chant without offenses, we come directly in touch with the internal energy of the Lord, we come directly in touch with the Lord Himself. And therefore all this fear, all these lamentations, they will just vanquish. So we should learn to take shelter of holy name of the Lord, especially in this age of Kali Yuga, to overcome different kinds of lamentations, grief that may overtake us. So I'll stop here and see if there are any questions or comments.